That proves that Keqing isn't a Keqing simp. Maybe he's moved on to Ayaka. You need to shush. 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 Okay, and we are back with another character review. And again, I'm in the Asia server, and I'm reviewing yet another Ayaka. This time, supposedly fully built. Level 90 is what I would assume. And it is in YouTube, Keqing and Asahina in Genshin. You can maybe say hi, Keqing, if you're not too busy. And that being said, let's get going. Today, outside of just the Ayaka, we are also going to probably take a look at his Keqing, since he is also a Keqing queen. Ayaka, you're just way too loud right now. Holy smokes. You're making me mess up on what I'm saying. Ayaka. You need to shush. 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 We are also going to be taking a look at his Keqing, since he is also a Keqing simp. But let's start off with the Ayaka. Level 90, attack 2000, that's already pretty good, I would think. And let's just take a look at these stats. And okay, that's pretty good. I see a decent amount of defense, so its artifacts are definitely not going to be perfect, but they never are anyways. A little bit of elemental mastery, which is fine. And we've got at least 50% crit rate, which is bare minimum good. For someone who's simping for Ayaka as his number 2, I would have expected 200 crit damage, but you're pretty close. 196, pretty close. You're almost there. 110 energy recharge, if I remember correctly. Ayaka needs 80 energy for her burst, so you would either need some really good batteries for her, or since I don't have her, I don't actually know how many particles her E provides, so maybe that's enough. But my inexperienced self towards Ayaka would assume that you would maybe want a little bit more energy recharge on her, but that's just my my guess. 61% cryo damage, not bad. Okay, and then weapon, we have a Black Cliff. So you bought this at the shop from Making Wishes, and it's already at level 90. Only rank 1, which is fine. I hope you're planning on getting more refinements on it in the future. That's up to you. Crit damage, which is kind of why you have a decently high crit damage. Fortunately, still not 200, but you know, that's fine. That's fine. This is a decent weapon for a DPS character. One of the better ones. Considering what crit rate you have, going crit damage weapon is the right choice so far. Aesthetically though, doesn't look great. I mean, unless you want your Ayaka to be a yandere and that sword is just like red dyed in her enemy's blood and you have a yandere Hime Ayaka, then if you're going for that, then this can kind of work out, except she doesn't look all that yandere to me. She's smiling a little too much. Not enough bloodstains around her, the rest of her costume and hair and her face, you know? But that's fine. And you use Shinsho as a battery, which Shinsho does provide a lot of particles, but it's not the same element, so you are losing a little bit on that. But if you have a sack sword, then that kind of mitigates that a bit. And before we dive into the artifacts, Constellation 0, so different than the previous one, and talents are currently 8, 9, and 8. I'm actually surprised you prioritized her E instead of her burst, or her auto attacks for that matter. Actually, I know her auto attacks aren't the fastest in the world, so not prioritizing that isn't a bad thing. But most Ayakas, if we're going a little bit more towards meta, is more of a burst DPS. So I'm actually surprised you went for her E instead of her burst. But I'm assuming you're still working on your Ayaka. Okay, let's take a look at artifacts. 2-piece Blizzard, Strayer, and nothing else. So artifacts are clearly still a work in progress. I also know for a fact that Keqing really likes to complain about getting bad artifacts. So maybe that's why he doesn't even have a two-piece set yet. Regardless of that, let's take a look. They're all at level 20, so they must be at least good, hopefully. But I guess we'll find that out right now. So let's take a look. And okay, 2 crit. Ooh. This is actually pretty good. This is actually really good. I don't know if it rolled once into defense or not, but regardless of that, this is pretty good. You probably wish that it went a little less on attack percentage and went more on crit damage, but I say this is solid. This is a good artifact. This is a good flower artifact. You can't really complain about this one. And this, ooh, you went to level 20 with this one. I mean, you got the 2 crit damage, so I can kind of understand why you went for level 20, so that's okay. Unfortunately, that defense percent If I had to pick one of the crap stats, I would have hoped it went into HP percentage over defense, but you know, at least it rolled into crit damage and crit rate a bit, so I guess that one's not the end of the world. This was an okay one. I don't know if I would have gotten it to level 20 since it's a feather. When it comes to flower and feathers, I've started to get a lot more picky about it because they're the easiest ones to farm because the main stat's always the same. But that's just me. Getting this one to level 20 is an okay choice. And considering your artifact luck, maybe this was like the best one you've gotten in a while. Who knows? Okay, and I mean, you got the above 20% on the crit damage, so that's pretty good. Elemental Mastery is never a bad thing if you're not doing a freeze comp. The thing about Elemental Mastery on Ayaka, depending on what kind of a team you're going for, Elemental Mastery is not necessarily great on Ayaka because you kind of want to use her in a freeze comp for the most part. So Elemental Mastery on Ayaka I don't consider all that great, because you want to be doing freeze comp and not a melt comp usually. Unfortunately, you rolled into flat attack at least once maybe, and a couple of times on defense, or at least once on defense. So this one looks a little spread out, unfortunately. Knowing your luck, you probably had no choice, but I still would not have gotten it to level 16, I don't think, for Ayaka specifically. Now, if this was just a spare artifact piece and you're planning on putting this on someone else, getting this to level 20 wasn't the end of the world, but if this was specifically done for Ayaka, you should have just left it at level 16. Next, we have the cup with cryo bonus, obviously. This one is one of the hardest things to farm, so looking at those terrible substats, actually, again, Elemental Mastery I don't feel like is that great on Ayaka, because you usually want to have her in freeze comp. Energy recharge is never a bad thing. HP percent could be worse, and then you at least rolled a little bit in crit damage. Actually, this isn't the worst artifact, considering it's a cryo goblet. It's not the worst thing in the world. You at least rolled a little bit in crit damage. Getting this to level 20, I can understand. This one gets a pass. This one's okay. Getting it to level 20 wasn't the end of the world. This one's a hard one to farm. Fine. That one gets a pass. And a crit rate, as I would have expected. And good God, those substats. Good God. Yikes. Yikes, why? Why did you get this one to level 20? If this is like one of your only crit rate choices, getting it to level 16 and leaving it at level 16 would be fine. Even if you didn't get it, even if it means not getting 50% crit rate, you'll eventually get a better one, but yikes. One bad piece. If it were me, I would have just gotten this to level 16 and stopped. Those substats are just way too bad. Usually when it comes to like an artifact, I kind of try to go for one that has at least 3 good stats for the character, or else it's not worth it. And I only see 2 good stats on this one, the main stat and attack percentage. Because again, investing an artifact from level 16 to level 20 does take a lot of resources. So yeah, no, this one's bad in my opinion. Yikes. Well, that was his Ayaka. I mean, overall, pretty decent low budget. Actually, no, free to play. Pretty good, decent free to play. One bad artifact. Just a little bit of forgiveness on it because I know how much bad luck he gets. And I guess you aren't fully built yet. You're still a work in progress on artifacts, but still, I would not have gone at this to level 20. That is a you used up a lot of resources on a really bad artifact. On just not a good artifact. But other than that, not bad. Pretty decent. Okay, and now we go for the Keqing Queen's ultimate character, ultimate waifu. And no surprise that this Keqing has a higher attack than the Ayaka. Level 90, obviously, for a Keqing Simp. And I, too, like Ayaka, do not have Keqing. So I won't be able to judge this too hard. But I guess we'll find out how this goes. And let's just start off with the stats. Yikes. Okay, oh, interesting. Keqing's base attack is lower than the Ayaka's, I believe. Yeah, it is. Okay, interesting. Keqing's base attack is lower than Ayaka's base attack, but you have quite a bit of attack percentage on either your artifacts and or your weapon of choice on Keqing, which is interesting. I am actually kind of curious what weapon you have on Keqing, considering Ayaka is also a one-handed sword user and you gave her the shop weapon, but I guess I'll find out soon. Not a lot of defense, so that's good. Elemental Mastery is like, I think, okay on Keqing. Wow, I almost said your username instead. Depending on what kind of a build you're going for. I don't know if you're electro or physical yet. What is with this garbage crit rate though? What? Excuse me? How is a Keqing simp giving your waifu this little crit rate? What is going on here? And you didn't even try to like replace it with a high amount of crit damage. What is wrong with your Keqing? How is this a Keqing simp? Keqing queen, you have failed. You have failed your YouTube name. You are not a Keqing simp. Get this guy out of here. This guy is not a Keqing simp. How could a Keqing simp have under 40% crit rate? What? Absolutely terrible. All other Keqing simps watching this are like getting their pitchforks ready to like attack you. Disgusting. Energy recharge is 111. I don't know what that means. I actually have no idea if Keqing needs a lot of energy recharge or not to get her burst up. I do know that her burst does provide quite a bit of damage though, so you definitely want some uptime on that, unless you're a physical Keqing. Maybe. And you're Electro Keqing, okay. Well then, well that proves that Keqing Queen isn't a Keqing simp. Maybe he's moved on to Ayaka. I don't know how Keqing feels about that though. Oh, looks like she's not too happy. Okay, weapon. Lion's Roar, which is the attack percentage, which explains why you had a lot of attack. This is a pretty good 4-star weapon on Keqing that I know, so, you know, decent. It is a gacha weapon, so having it at R3 is kind of just based on your RNG on pulling it, so whatever. Level 90 as it should be. So yeah, good 4-star weapon choice. Can't really complain about that or say anything outside of that. And aesthetically, neutral. Lion's Roar has a pretty neutral color, so it can kind of fit on most characters, so this is like a neutral aesthetic choice as well. So all around good choice on the weapon at least. You're not too far gone. And we'll skip the art. Whoa, I did not like to. Well, I don't think I saw something great on the artifacts. C0, I mean, it's a standard banner 5-star character. You could have constellations, but you don't. Looking at the amount of 5-star characters I can look at, and you have crowned your Keqing, so at least we can go with that for being a Keqing simp. But only single crowned. I feel like most Keqing simps would have at least double crowned their Keqing. Although you did get her E at level 9, so that maybe says a little bit. But yeah, I would have expected her burst to be crowned by this point. Okay, but regardless, take a look at the artifacts. Okay, wow, 2-piece Thundering Fury. Not even 2-piece. Not like a 2-piece Electro, 2-piece Glad for the extra bonus. No, just a 2-piece Electro, probably working on 4-piece. Although you said you were working on Ayaka, which means you're no longer working on Keqing. How could you do this to your queen like this? Yikes. Okay, artifacts are all at level 20, so we'll see if any of these were a waste. And okay, well, this one's pretty good. Didn't roll on defense percentage, so you got lucky there. It rolled spread across your crits and energy recharge, so this is a pretty solid flower. And then we have this, again, double crit stats. This one's, again, pretty solid. One bad substat, but that's okay. This time it rolled once. At least once on HP, but you got the crit damage and crit rate in, so this one's not bad. Pretty solid choice so far, good stuff. And here we go for the sands, and here we start to see some not less than ideal artifacts, but you got the crit rate. Again, I have no idea if Elemental Mastery is good on Keqing, although I do know you kind of sometimes play Keqing and Dilute together, so maybe you need it for Overload. You dodged the defense percentage, but you did roll a few times on flat attack, which I personally think is a little better than defense percentage if I had to pick between the two, so that's okay. I also kind of assume it rolled at least once on crit rate and maybe also once on Elemental Mastery by the looks of it, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Interesting. This one's an okay piece. You can definitely do better. Okay, and the cup, electro damage as you would expect, and Actually, this one's not that bad. The substats, you get attack percentage and crit damage. It unfortunately rolled at least once in HP, but I guess it gives you a little bit more survivability. But I would say this one's good. This one's good. This one's a good piece. It rolled quite a bit on crit damage and attack percentage, so this one's good. Good solid choice. I understand why you would put that one there. And next we have the final piece in the circlet. Crit damage, which explains why you have a lot of crit damage, but not a lot of crit rate. Also, decent substats. It rolled quite a bit in Elemental Mastery, which, again, I don't know if that's generally good on Keqing, but I do know you do a little bit of a overload build at times, so that's okay. But if you're starting to do Superconduct with Ayaka or something else, then I would say Elemental Mastery is a bit of a waste. And what I've also noticed is that you have been quite unlucky with getting crit rate on any of your artifacts that you have on her, which I guess kind of explains the low crit rate, unfortunately. I would personally change this into a crit rate circlet temporarily so that you can get more consistent crits. But I guess you kind of mitigate the lack of crit rate with an attack percentage weapon so that your non-crits are still doing decent damage, kind of, considering you have high attack. So it's not the complete end of the world, but it's still not great. Or good, for that matter, if we're really being picky here. That being said, being a Keqing simp, I am kind of disappointed, honestly. That crit rate, how could you do that? How could you do that to your queen? A shame. A shame. A complete shame. That was Keqing Queens, or Asahina's Ayaka and Keqing review. Fully leveled, technically still a work in progress onto artifacts. In fact, not even technically. You need to work on your artifacts. Your artifact hell has been quite the artifact hell. I think there's one good thing you can feel proud about. One thing, Keqing Queen. People in chat are now happy about their artifacts thanks to seeing your artifacts. So you can be happy about that. You're making a few people in chat feel good. That being said, that will be the end of this video. And who knows who I'll be reviewing next time. Goodness gracious. Yeah, simping disappointing.